Hello and welcome to the Sunburst Sanctuary, to our Sunday talk here. My name is Heiko and I welcome you all to our service. Today's topic that I would like to discuss before our meditation time is the topic of finding the guidance within. We are all aware that we have come into these bodies, into these forms, into this time and place to be able to grow on our spiritual way. And we all come from different walks of life. We all start a little different. But if you're here watching this video, being in the presence here with me today, then we are to the point in our journey, all of us together here, to really ask and to develop that inner guidance that we have, that connection to the great spirit within, to let ourselves grow and to impact our journey here, our life's journey, in a meaningful way, so that we in our hearts and in our minds have that feeling that it was worth it, that the effort that we all gave it did come out and it did produce change in our lives. Even now, as we look about ourselves outside in this world, we see an array of problems, and I know that we all have that desire to be able to have clarity of thought and mind, to see through all those problems, to be able to understand how we can make and impact those situations in a positive and meaningful way. If we look deep within our heart and our mind, there is always this little piece within us that says, am I connecting to the source? Is there a thread as to what I am experiencing right now connected to the source? And how is it? And how does that source, the divine within, talk to us all and come forth? That is always the question. And by all standards, I do feel that those of us who take our spiritual lives and our path in earnest and are attempting to develop that within ourselves, we gauge ourselves by the ability to be in this place where we can have that connection in the moment. I wanted to share with you a story that is close to my heart, that relates to me what divine guidance within can do and how it expresses itself into our daily lives. It starts out with a phone call from my dear teacher and Sunburst's founder, Norman Paulsen. And when I was younger, about 20 years ago, I worked on the ranch crew fixing fences. And one of his favorite things to do was to call me really early in the morning, because I was notorious for getting up late, and somehow he always knew when that was happening, because the phone would ring. But the really sweet thing about that time was that I could also gauge what was happening to him, because he was sharing with me through his exuberance and his happiness about his connection with the Divine Spirit that would come forth to him many times in the night or early morning hours. And he would start the day with a real push of energy. And so on this particular morning, he called me up. And he said to me, Heiko, I want you to get in your truck immediately and go to the ranch. And I want you to go to a certain place at the ranch. And there, on top of this ridge, there is a fence and a gate. And that gate is open. And the bulls are getting ready to walk out of that gate. And he said that morning, in the early hours, in his dreams or in his partially waking state, he said that Spirit took him for a flight, and they flew over the property here, and that Spirit showed him that this gate was open and that the bulls were getting ready to come out. And so I was like, okay, packed it up, and off I went. And sure enough, when I got to that gate, the gate was open. And not too far away, I could see that the bulls were grazing, but they were going to eventually be grazing right up to the gate and then head on out into the other side. And that would have been a big mix-up with our herd at the time. So later on that day, I found Norm again, and I asked him, I said, Norm, how did you know that this was really happening? And he had a big smile on his face. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know, Heiko, Spirit wants to be a cowboy too. And I laughed and I walked away with like this, thinking about that. Like, that isn't something that happened to me every day. And it really actually opened my eyes about what did that mean. And to me, it started to develop and come forth, and it was that Spirit wanted to be in my shoes as well. And that everything that I was experiencing, Spirit was experiencing. And that Spirit has a keen interest in what I was experiencing. And that even though we exist in a place where everything has a little hue of judgment about it, right and wrong, left and right, male or female, that in this creation of duality, this bubble of a creation, it has the interest and the living source of it all, underlining it and living it and experiencing it all at the same time. And that we are part of that. Our lives are part of that. The idea that we can find our guidance from the great divine within us is absolutely possible. And if we open ourselves up and make way in our hearts and our minds, that the divine will come flooding in and share and be present. And in so doing, we create new possibilities, changes. Our lives become more in sync with our desire to walk this spiritual path and to be able to know without a shadow of a doubt that we are doing what we came here to do, to be in the presence of Spirit in the moment, every moment. We can read stories of people who have gone past teachers and gurus who have relayed that truth to us over and over and over again. That when we are connected in the moment, that Spirit opens the gates and floods us with what we need to know. I wanted to share with you another story, and this one is in Norm's book, Life, Love, God, and it takes place at the time when he is with his teacher, Yogananda, and they are living at a place called Mount Washington, which is in the LA area. And there with them, Norm had a good friend, another disciple named Daniel Boone, and they were close friends, and they were well aware of each other's trials and tribulations and everything else. And Daniel Boone had this big feeling that he wanted to depart the monastery there and go on. And so this story takes place in, I'm going to say, 1949 or 1950, near the beginning of the Korean War era of this country. Near the end of September, Daniel called to me to his room, "Norm, I have to go now. I just can't stay any longer." Norm says, "Have you spoken with Master?" And that's the endearing title that they would use for Yogananda, Master Yogananda. "Yes, I talked to him out in front of the gate with my suitcase 2 weeks ago, and I decided that it was better just to leave quickly on my own then, and not to create any disturbance. But as I was right in front of the gate, Master's car pulled up into the driveway, and there I was, standing in the headlights with my suitcase. He caught me at precisely the right moment, and he called me up into his room, and we talked all night together. And he didn't want me to go, of course, and I finally agreed to try harder for another 2 more weeks. Well, Norm, those 2 weeks are up, and I feel I have to go." This story, as I heard it later, was fascinating. Yogananda had been dictating to one of his secretaries at the 29 Palms Desert Retreat, when all of a sudden he jumped up abruptly, shouting, "Get the car! Quick! I must go back to LA to Mount Washington as fast as I can." And as it worked out, he caught Daniel Boone right outside the front gate. "God told me that he was leaving," Yogananda remarked later. And there's another example of what it can mean to be in that state of grace where divine guidance can bring us to the exact moment where we need to be able to connect with somebody to be able to do the right thing, to know that our lives have meaning to ourselves and also to those souls around us. And I have been thinking about how do we get into that energy? How do we know that we have divine guidance within ourselves? For me, finding divine guidance is directly connected to the joy of being able to give your love and your wonderful thoughts out into the creation that we have here. Because I find that giving your love outward gives inwardly this space that allows Spirit to come in and touch me in my heart and in my mind. And the more I give that love to this creation, to everything that I see, the more I am inwardly at peace, and I find that attunement, that feeling of I am where I need to be. Spirit is here with me. And everything that I experience is also felt in that great omnipresence that is so interested in this creation, in this life, in this minute detail, which is my experience, as well as all the other experiences all around me. And in that instance, when that giving of love goes outward, it has a ripple effect, and it touches all the other things and experiences that the creation has all around me. And the most important thing that I want to convey is that this grace comes forth, and the minds, the thoughts slowly change. And there is this feeling of knowing that some of those thoughts come in and you don't know how they came in. They exist, and it's almost like it's your deeper self expressing itself, finding a way to come forth. And the ability to be able to take that pause and to look out and observe this creation in a different way, we all have that. And when we do, we can feel that divine grace slowly welling up within us. And another way to foster that is to go within into deep meditation and to lay the foundation for spirit. And if we do that every day, our attunement is assured. So let us now get into our position, our meditation, find that comfortable seat, get our spines erect, slow our breaths, calm our thoughts, open our hearts, and allow space for Spirit to enter and fill us like an open vessel. Divine Spirit, bless us all. Might we all feel your strength within us. Might our hearts awaken to your touch. Might our minds be blessed with the true and pure thoughts that come from you. And might we see your vision unfold in front of us. Might you always have that interest in this life, and might I be able to feel that in every cell of my body. Amen. Norm used to say, never give up. In our lives, it is so important to go forth with this attitude of never giving up. Our love for Spirit will drive us and guide us, moving throughout this life, and we will come to that place where we can feel the grace in our lives of Spirit being there side by side. And when we express ourselves, we also express the will of that connection, Spirit coming through into this existence, experiencing everything that we experience. So I'd like to say, good journey to us all. Be healthy, be happy, and feel that grace of Spirit between every thought, and let our love go out into the world. Amen.
My body is this whole world, my spirit all eternity, my joy, the joy of me, my life an endless sea, my love goes out to all, thy will forever be done, singing glory and praise to our Father Creator. I feel to be at one. My body is this whole world, my spirit